This is the first ever graphics card I paid for with my own money back in 2017. Now, this new graphics card is not exactly the same one I had, but it is exactly the same model. It's just a bit older now, it's a bit more dusty as you can see. And I acquired this one on eBay for a very good price of around £15. The big question is, can this graphics card keep up in 2025? Let's find out. Our GTX 550 Ti has 192 CUDA cores, 32 texture mapping units, 24 ROPs, a clock speed of 900 MHz, and a Gigabyte of VRAM. Using our TechMW test bench here with our Ryzen 5 1600X 16GB DDR4 and a Crucial SSD with a more than sufficient 650 watt power supply. First time plugging in the graphics card and powering on, and we have absolutely no issues. So it's time to install the latest NVIDIA driver, which was released several years ago now, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem for the games we're running, and our GTX 550 Ti is showing up in Device Manager. Excellent. So let's run the first game and see if this card can keep up. This is an older one, bit of Gmod, and as you can see we had a maximum of 277 FPS, an average of 105 and a minimum of 28.7 with a 1% low of 11.8 and a 0.1% low of 2.7. It's an older game though, so you'd kind of expect that, but considering it's on max settings and at 720p, it's a very, very playable experience, very nice. I'm very impressed with the 550 Ti so far. Moving on to something a tiny bit more demanding, Left 4 Dead 2. This card handled this no problem, as you can see. Another older game, however more demanding than Gmod. Even with the large amount of zombies on the screen, we still had a maximum of 266 FPS with an average of 151.4, a minimum of 97.6, and a 1% low of 85 with a 0.1% low of 3.1. This is, again, 720p maxed out settings. You cannot push this any higher unless you up the resolution. And as you can see, with all the zombies on the screen, it's doing very, very well, around 130 FPS. Very, very impressive. However, I got absolutely demolished by the zombies, so we don't have to talk about that too much. Moving on to the next game, Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Now this adds a little bit more strain to the system. Again, 720p, higher settings, noticeably lower frame rate, hovering around 100, but still very, very playable. This is a game from 2012, so it is actually a new game for this graphics card. It came out a year after this card. So, with a maximum of 148.9, an average of 78.2, and a minimum of 48.1, with a 1% low of 48, and a 0.1% low of 38.5, this is a very, very playable experience. It's all the more impressive when you consider that this game is a year newer than the graphics card, and the fact that this graphics card was a low-end model. Moving on to Forza Horizon 4. It looked very promising, it loaded the menu just fine. So we were able to mess around with the settings, we turned it down to 720p, kind of the lowest possible settings, and based on previous experiences where the game doesn't even launch because of DirectX 12 problems, I was very optimistic. But unfortunately, while optimizing my PC, it crashed. And it would not play, no matter how hard I tried. So we moved on to the next game. Now this might be a bigger challenge, Halo Infinite. Now I'm fairly sure this game needs DirectX 12 to run, and this card, while it does handle it, it doesn't handle it very well, but unfortunately, we kind of gave up again. Yeah, it doesn't meet the minimum requirements, and so it literally doesn't launch. Okay, moving on to something this card definitely can handle, Minecraft. However, I had to change the settings a lot to make it more GPU bound because it's a very CPU bound game and my CPU was peaking at 99%. But now, as you can see, the graphics card is peaking at about 89% and the CPU usage is quite low. So this is probably the most GPU bound experience I could get. This is also at 720p and we had a massively high frame rate for this one. A maximum of 337.9, an average of 292.4, a minimum of 255.6, a 1% low of 196.3 and a 0.1% low of 47.3. Not too bad at all. Very, very playable. Now there were a couple of dips here and there, and that was probably because of the graphics card, but it's okay. Moving on to Fortnite. Now, this was the interesting one because I can never tell if this game is fairly well optimized or if it just runs like a pile of garbage, but as you can see on the performance preset at 720p, we had a maximum of 95 FPS with an average of 67, so above console FPS right there, a minimum of 41.9, a 1% low of 37.4, and a 0.1% low of 17.1. It obviously won't look as good as something like an Xbox Series S or a PS4 Pro or even a normal PS4 or Xbox One. However, we are getting that 60 FPS frame rate on average. Ignore me getting absolutely destroyed. So is this graphics card still worth buying? I'm going to say no, even though it's very, very cheap, because something like a 750 Ti is not a lot more money and it would perform quite a bit better than this and have better support for DirectX 12, but this is still a great card and no slouch whatsoever. It was the first card I personally paid for, and you can probably see why. I bought this in 2017 and it was really, really good for the games I played back then. So, if you enjoyed this one, please do consider leaving it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to join the Discord server in the link below. I'm always on there. And consider becoming a channel member so you can get early access to uploads. Thank you very much for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.